Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unfiltered Tales Season 5, Episode 11. Tonight, we're coming all the way from the Hawaiian Islands tonight that we have Miss Isabella Young with us tonight. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm very excited about being a guest on your podcast. Looking forward to our conversation. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us. But before we start, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I was born in Australia and I lived there until the year 2000 when I met and married an American. And that's when I thought had met my spiritual teacher, my guru, whatever. That's what I was actually meeting a cult leader, and I ended up in a cult for 7 years. That's still running in Southern California. And after 7 years, he had my son murdered, which he staged as a suicide and blamed me. And after that, I just basically lost my mind, and then had to try and figure out a way to, want to continue to live and find purpose and meaning again, and eventually escaped to Hawaii. And that's where I've been living for about the past 16 years, trying to heal and recover from that experience.
Well, how did you find out it was a cult?
Well, in the cult, we used to joke about, being a cult and hearing about other cults. And he would always tell us we were the cult that wasn't a cult. So the word cult had come up, but no one in my family, even though my parents had apparently been to see a cult expert not long after I left Australia, none of my friends, no one ever said I was in a cult. So it wasn't until after my son's death that I went along to see this guy who'd been the cult counselor for many years, and I didn't see him at the time. I really honestly wasn't a very obedient, cult member. And I walked in the door. He said, "I knew you'd come and see me one day. You know you're in a cult, don't you?" And I said, "No, didn't know I was in a cult. I thought I was in an ashram with my guru." And he said, "Go home and Google cult characteristics," and which I did. And there's a list, like the charismatic leader who's the arbitrator of truth, who controls everyone's sleeping hours, food intake, who you're in a relationship, whether you're having sex or not. And then all the tactics that are typically used by cult leaders. One is known as gaslighting, which is basically making people feel like they're insane, that they can't, I couldn't trust myself, because he would always say we'd had a conversation we'd never had, or I said something, and that was just constant, the gaslighting. So I didn't know. Basically didn't know which way was up, really. And then there was the brainwashing and mind control, which we did through like repetitive chanting of his name, and then the psychological operations, the psyops, that he would just create these ridiculous scenarios that everyone was involved in, like someone that just got enlightened, or the child that we had together was the incarnation of a Hindu deity. There was just all these. The best words that I heard to describe what was happening in the cult is mind fuckery. Because people were we were really it was mind rape. And what I found out after I left, that he was also having sex with the male cult members and with the boys in the cult. So people were being raped and mind raped. So it wasn't until after, a long time after that, I found out I was in a cult. And then I had to figure out what it was in me that got me that made me vulnerable to getting into a cult, being in a relationship with someone that had a narcissistic personality disorder. So that's really what I've been, working on since I escaped.
So, what were they teaching at this thing, at the cult, the place?
Well, he believes he's the second coming. He's the Maitreya, the Kalki avatar, the one that's come to save humanity. And he has a group of disciples around him. He thinks he's Jesus back again to, save the world. So he's teaching that that's who he is, and that people around him are his disciples to help him with his mission. And he's here to help humanity I don't know, God knows what, like just help humanity, I suppose. So teaching that we're, but the main thing that he taught us that we were all very broken and wounded, and he was the only one that had the keys or the tools or the practices that we all needed to, become like whole human beings again. So that included, we did a lot of prayers and processing of emotions and talking through issues and stuff like that, and looking at why things happen and how we were responsible for them. So yeah, it was not specific to any type of religion. Like he pulled in a lot of different teachings from different religions, whatever served his purpose at the time, really.
Okay. So you said that he murdered your son. What was that about?
He was grooming my son,
Oh, he was
and he didn't want to be exposed as a pedophile and a groomer.
okay.
And so yeah, he took him out because my son was he could see through him. He
Right.
was 15. He wasn't taking his bullshit. He could he knew that this guy was a fraud, and he knew that he was a dangerous predator as well. So he was silenced.
Mm. So after that process happened with your son, after the murder/suicide happened with your son, like you left, was it dangerous for you to leave?
No, not. I wasn't in physical danger when I left, but he did make it very difficult for me to leave because we had a child together. He legally, I wasn't supposed to move within 2 hours of the house, the home. That's in the law apparently. And because I had family in Australia, I really didn't want to be staying in California, and he wasn't going to let me go back to Australia. And he also, the other like trip that he put on me was that from a soul level, he said that we'd been. It had been like thousands of lifetimes that we'd been working together to come into partnership in this lifetime. And if I turned my back on this relationship, this guru disciple relationship, this marriage or whatever, that I'd basically be turning my back on God and, on myself. So I'd be like throwing away, lifetimes of spiritual work. So that was, he said, in his words were like, when I left my body, my scream would reverberate throughout the universe when I realized the mistake that I made. So it took a while for me to get out from under that blackmail, really.
Right.
But what I think happened is that he knew he had to let me go because otherwise he was going to have another death on his hands.
And the death would be you?
Me. Yeah.
So you have a child together also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the child was in Hawaii with you?
No. She was brainwashed very early on and turned against me.
Wow.
I'm sure that what he's told her about me is just heinous lies. I'm a crazy bitch or whatever, best to keep away from me. So he's done a lot of damage to me, my children, but also a lot of the people in the cult. They're usually what I'm seeing with the way that cults and cult leaders get exposed is when people leave, they talk about what happened. They're whistleblowers.
Mm-hmm.
But with this cult, there's only myself and one other ex-cult member in Australia who are really talking about the cult, because people are really damaged and broken, and it's taking a long time for people to heal. And then that maybe they just want to leave it in the past and not talk about it. So yeah, he did a lot of damage to, and is still going, still running the same scam on pretty much the same people over 20 years now.
Okay. So you're out. So
I'm out.
what was that healing process like for yourself?
Oh, it's really quite challenging because when I got out, my family disowned me. So I was really very much on my own. And I had to be honest and look at my choices and what it was in me that was so like broken and like messed up that got me into a cult. Because while I could point the finger at him and say, oh, he's got a narcissistic personality, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's true. But what did that mean about me? And so I learned about
Right.
codependent tendencies, and they're both self-love deficit disorders, both narcissistic personality disorder and codependent tendencies, only they manifest differently. While he's off creating this, himself as a walking god, I'm looking for attention and assurance and like encouragement and all that outside of myself, because I lack self-love. So my first job when I got out after I realized that was to learn to love myself, which is a work in progress. It was something that I was very damaged as a child, and that's continued on, and the consequences played out as they did. And so now I've had to learn to love myself, and also then to forgive myself, because I feel so horribly guilty about what I chose and the fact that it ended up in my son's death and then my parental alienation with my children. So working on forgiving myself, and then to heal my body, because I was so traumatized from the experience, because that's not the only like death experience. My first husband died suddenly, so I had like accumulated death trauma. And the main way that I've been healing my trauma is to spend a lot of time in nature. So to spend time like walking barefoot on the earth or on the beach, lying on the grass, swimming in the ocean, just being outdoors and receiving the energy from nature, the healing energy, and that helped my body to rebalance and recalibrate and settle my nervous system, so that I could then start to process let go some of the emotions that I was feeling, like the rage and the grief and things like that. So it's like a multi tiered approach to the healing, learning, making, doing physical exercises, which is not just walking or swimming and all that, but like rebirthing, which is a breathing technique that allows like trapped emotions to surface, and then also just and continuing to do that, not trying to suppress emotions or medicate them or bypass them or whatever, but just being really honest with myself, and like, for instance, releasing anger, but in a way that doesn't hurt anyone else. So if I'm feeling pissed off, not to go and scream at someone else, but to scream into a pillow or in my car with the windows up, or go for a long swim or whatever. So just continuing to work at releasing the emotions as they come up, and practicing relaxation, and just practicing enjoying life, enjoying simple things like the sunrise or the clouds or whatever, just taking those moments to be relaxed and enjoy, or peace, rather than, because I was basically in a suffering mode. I mastered the art of suffering, and it's only been in more recent years that I'm actually able to say that I'm not suffering anymore. I don't suffer all the time. I still feel that, those type of what people might call negative emotions, but they don't run me anymore. I'm free of that way of existing, that hell.
Right. So would you say, that's how you rebuilt your sense of identity and faith, what you do as far as like feeling better naturally? As you said, you walk on the beach with your shoes up, with barefoot, you lay on the grass, you do a lot of natural nature things. So that's
Yeah,
what you would say, that's how you rebuilt your identity and faith.
absolutely. Yeah. The other practice that I do that has been the most powerful practice for me is sun gazing. So I
Hmm.
receive the light of the sun, which is like life optimizing information,
Hmm.
into my eyes just as the sun is rising, and when it's setting, the sun's safe to look at. I know we've been told don't look at the sun, you'll go blind. Well, that's only true, partly true. Like, don't look at the sun when it's straight overhead, because that's not going to be good. But it's actually really beneficial to receive sunlight straight into the eyes, and it's important that we get it on our skin. And so that whole like fearing the sun has been a really disempowering and sickening thing for people. Really need to get sunlight. I mean, obviously, don't go and fry yourself. That's just,
Right.
right. But it's really important to get sunlight, and the sunlight in the eyes goes through into the brain, the pineal gland, and the pituitary gland. And I don't know what exactly does. I know that it gives me energy. It like revitalizes me. And it also expands my consciousness or my perception of reality. So I continue to see I can see more and more and more of what's going on in reality. Because really, we only see a really small, like a
Hmm.
fraction of what's really real, what's really happening. And and how we perceive reality is being controlled. So
Right.
we're being limited by a whole lot of different ways, from through the mainstream media and the television and from the food we eat to the water we drink. There's all these different like mechanisms that keep us with limited perception. So the sun gazing is the free, easy, like accessible for most people, most time of the year to be able to go and do that. And then it really does expand my consciousness, and that enabled me to take in information to write books. And I just just published this. This is my latest book. It's called New Human of New Earth,
Okay.
and it turned into like 825 pages long. It's basically a remembrance of how to be human, because that's being forgotten, because most people now relate to life through screens and
Right.
live sort of in cities disconnected from nature. So it's a reminder of all the like the medicines in nature, not all
Hmm.
of them, but many of the medicines in nature, and the medicines that we have in our bodies, the tools that we have. We can use our breath, we can use the sounds that we make, the movements that we make, and these are all what seem really simple, but they're all essential for us to practice in order to be an optimally healthy, mentally healthy, and physically healthy human being. And there are also other technologies that like spiritual technologies that we can access for divination, or higher knowledge, or using our intuition and stuff like that. So that's basically what I ended up writing about.
Okay, so you that book you said is 820 pages,
I
so
know.
that's a lot of writing. So you say things that's just naturally like some of the things that we can use, and some of the things out that book basically for like natural medicines for the body. What so some of those things that you talk about, like just give us a couple examples.
Well, I'm just going to go into just go from the ground up. Like it's essential for us to be directly connected to the earth, skin to earth.
Okay.
And really, that's essential for us to be balanced electromagnetically, for instance, with all these chaos electromagnetic forces, that are around us, from cell phones to um, what's happening in the cities, through the
Hmm.
electrics and all that. So we have our own electromagnetic frequency, which is really subtle, and so it's easy for that to get out of balance. So grounding will help to rebalance that, and also that it helps, like I said, to calm the nervous system, to also to get the earth energy to the body, to get their electrons that we need.
Hmm.
And so it's essential to be directly connected to the earth. Bare feet on earth, lie on the earth, walk on the beach, bare feet. And if you can't get out into nature, or directly connect to the earth because there's snow or whatever, you can touch trees, or plants, or outdoor pets, because they're
Hmm.
also grounded, and crystals,
Hmm.
rocks, that will give us that grounding energy. And that's really where the health needs to start. Also, inflammation is one of the main like underlying causes for a whole lot of chronic illnesses.
Right.
And grounding is one of the main practices that can reduce inflammation.
Okay.
So in addition to then going out and just spending time in nature and relax in nature, because we hardly ever get to properly relax. And when we're relaxed is when our body can receive what it needs to heal, and it can also heal. So receive what we need, and then the body goes about healing like that when we relax. So practicing relaxation, like I said, lying on the grass or lying on the beach or whatever, even though it looks like you're doing nothing, you're doing like the best, one of the best things that you can for your own health.
Well, for
And
somebody
then
like, well, I just want to say that somebody like me who has acid reflux, what would you recommend?
these things. I recommend these things, like start right from the ground up, spending time in nature, getting connected to nature, being quiet in nature, and then through getting quiet and still and in nature, then what I found was that I could then start hearing my body talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
I could hear what I needed. Okay, so you need more sleep, or you need to drink more water, or I need to eat more living foods.
Mm-hmm.
So, the whole food thing's another issue. The processed foods creates, and especially the ultra processed foods create
Mm-hmm.
inflammation in the body. That sets it up like for all sorts of. Basically, they're poisons. The ultra processed foods, the junk foods, and the fast foods and all that's extremely poisonous for us. So it's important to be eating as fresh as possible in living foods, like something simple like sprouting sprouts.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Anyone can do that. You can sprout any type of sprouts you like, from mung beans to lentils to broccoli sprouts, or alfalfa seeds or whatever. And that's the living essence that's in those sprouts that then we can ingest, and that gives the body that um, energy to work with, rather than dead foods or poisonous foods or whatever. And then there's water. So we can optimize the water that we drink. So tap water is generally has fluoride in it, it's a poison. There's no
Mm-hmm.
study that shows fluoride's helped any dental conditions ever. It's actually a poison that was used in the Second World War in prisoner of war camps to keep the prisoners docile, and it renders the pineal gland incapable of functioning. And that's another way that keeps us, if we don't have a functioning pineal gland, then we aren't connected to source, or can't hear intuition or divine guidance, whatever you want to call it. So it's important to be eliminating all sorts of the toxins that you can from your food and your water, and then be eating as clean and the water as pure as possible. And then, so, I mean, obviously the purest water is going to be from the spring somewhere, but if that's not
Mm-hmm.
accessible, then there are bottled water's got microplastics and all that. So you probably have to look at your situation and see, is there a pure water source that I can access? You might have to, drive further, or get some type of filtration system, and then so clean up the water, and then it can be blessed and or put out in the sun before you drink it, so it's got a higher vibrational quality. And really start with just the basics of cleaning up your food, then your home environment, with what type of chemicals are you using around your home for cleaning or laundry. And then there's also what are you taking into your mind? What are you listening to? Who are you listening to? And is that going to be supportive for your health or detrimental? What do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about your own healing? Is that going to be contributing to your healing, or is it going to be contributing to your sickness? So there are so many different layers to look at when you want to create optimal well-being. It's
Okay. So
it's
what
not
are you
just
listening to?
what am I listening to? One of the things I love listening to are the sounds from nature. And when I was in the city, I used to play at night I'd play insect sounds, like from the jungle, or I'd play falling rain, and then waves during the day, or running
Mm-hmm.
water, babbling brooks or whatever. And now I get to hear
Mm-hmm.
those all, naturally. So that's an important thing to do. If you can't get outside into nature, you can create your own environment, like bring more plants indoors, play the sounds of nature, do aromatherapy, and smell the plant smells that way. That's one of the things I listen to. I also listen to do my best to listen to people who I feel are sharing truth about what's happening on Earth at the
Mm-hmm.
moment, and also truth about health, creating health, and also creating sovereignty and expansion of consciousness. So that's mainly what I do.
No. Well, I mean, that is definitely a bounce back story with everything you've been through, as far as the cult, the pedophilia, the rape-ins, the untimely deaths of your first husband and your son, and the brainwashing of your daughter, and your family basically just abandoning you. So that is definitely you're a very resilient person that you bounce back from all that. So being from that, now that you living, that you are healed and all that, and everything you've been through, have you decided to move forward like with dating, or you just stay to yourself?
Well, firstly, thank you for your kind words. I appreciate that. Yeah, I am in a relationship, and I know that I have moved
Okay.
out of codependency because my partner doesn't have a narcissistic personality disorder, and it's such a it's almost initially a shock to be in a relationship with
Mm-hmm.
someone that where the dynamic wasn't combative, because I had that right from childhood with my mother being a narcissist. We just didn't have friendly, nice conversations in our house. It was all
Right.
one-upmanship or criticism or judgment, and so now it's just nice to have a good friend who isn't out to manipulate me or lie to me or take advantage of me. I really like it. It's a nice change.
No, that's what it's supposed to be. You got to be
Right.
friends first.
Yeah.
You got to be friends. I used to be the love doctor, but some things didn't happen, that I planned on happening. So I had to leave that part of life alone, when I was trying
Oh.
to be the love doctor. So I had to leave that shit alone. But thank you definitely for coming out. Now your book, where is it published that we can get it? Because I know you have a first book too. Let me pull it back up because I have the first book. I had the name of it. Your first book was putting on the armor of God, a survival
Mhm.
handbook for the Great
Yeah.
Awakening. Where can we find these books at? They like on Amazon or
Yeah, they're
anything like?
both available on Amazon. And my name's Isabella Young, so you can find them on Amazon or go to my website, which is www.feelingbetternaturally.love. And so the links to the books are in the section on books. And I've also got articles and
Mhm.
videos on there as well. And I have a YouTube channel called Feeling Better Naturally, where I have mostly lately a lot of just nature videos. Uh, and then I have a Substack, Feeling Better Naturally.
That's a beautiful thing. But you're out on the island. You get all the sun you want. You can relax in nature. Of course, it's all type of reptiles and all that stuff out there with you. So I'm guessing that's just a blast that you have out there.
Yeah, I'm very blessed. I'm the most blessed person I know, even though there's been a lot of horrendous things that I've experienced. I'm now
Hmm.
in I feel extremely blessed. And I know that I have the support from, uh, my son, my husband who's passed. I can feel my ancestors. I can feel other like beings that are around me that aren't necessarily physical. I've also got good friends, and I'm in a good place. I'm in the best place I've been in since my husband died. So it's hopefully some of the information that I've learned along the way, I can share with other people, and that will be of benefit.
Oh yeah. So that was my next question before we get out of here. Like, what would you tell somebody that uh who who was going through what you've been through? Like in that cult situation. What would you tell that person?
Someone who's been in a cult and then got out of the cult.
They just no, not they're in it. Like, would you try to get them out of
Oh,
it?
in it. Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I've heard some experts say that you shouldn't tell people that they're in a cult because you'll just drive them further in and you'll create a wall between you and that person. But if I hadn't been told that I was in a cult, I'd probably, well,
Hmm.
hopefully I still wouldn't be there, but I might have been there for longer than I was. So I feel like there are ways that you could tell people they're in a cult without necessarily ostracizing them. For me, for instance, what would have worked for me, I think, would be to if my parents had got a PI, private
Hmm.
investigator, to follow this guy, and if I'd been presented with photographic evidence of here's him with his Tinder hookup, him at the
Mm,
gym, all that, then I could have seen the evidence. And I think there are ways to present information to people about being in a cult, like, I don't know, just a document that said these are cult characteristics, just like what I Googled, and make it like a checklist. Like, is this your situation? Check, check, check. And so that you get
uh,
some real uh, information rather than just what you think someone's opinion and criticisms and all that. And then for someone who is in the cult and is in a cult and wants to, you just
mm,
have to get out. You just have to take that leap and know that it's really important to close that door, because you can't really move forward in life if you're stuck in a cult. And the other thing about not letting people know that they're in a cult is, if you don't know you're in a cult, how can you get out? If you can't see the cage that you're in, and there's no way that you can get out. And I see that too on a bigger scale, on a worldwide scale. Like, if you don't realize that there are all these factors that are keeping us in like a controlled way of thinking, or
mm,
false beliefs. If we don't know that that's happening, then we're just going to go along with the program, rather than being able to step back and say, hey, wait a minute, this isn't what I thought it was. All this other stuff's going on behind the scenes. I need to figure out what
right.
it is that's happening and what it is I want to do about it. And it
Okay.
does
Well,
take a lot of courage to realize that that your worldview was wrong, and then accept that, and then make changes. It takes a lot of courage. So just know that if you're in that situation, then you can get out, and then you can heal, and you can move forward, and
mhm,
have a good life.
right. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Um, she has an 820-page book for all you readers out there, so feeling better naturally. Love, you love to read. Pretty sure you're going to be on that book for a good while. So you can get it on Amazon, or you can get it on feeling better naturally. Love. You can check out our YouTube channel, Feeling Better Naturally, or you can go to a Substack, feelingbetter naturally.substack.com. So thank you, Isabella, for sharing us your story tonight. Thank you. And
Thank
trying
you
to heal
so
the world.
Thank you so much for your kind words, and thank you for the platform that you provide to people, for me to be able to tell our stories, because that's such an important part of the healing too. For me to be able to speak and be heard, and you've helped me in my journey, and I know that you're helping others too. So thank you for your contribution to a better world. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your kind words. Next week we'll be back at 7 o'clock same time. But next week is one of our it's a celebrity gossip show next week. So just tune in. We're gonna talk about celebrity gossip, and of course we're gonna talk about your favorite case that's going on, Mr. Sean Combs. So same time, same place. Unfiltered Tales, season 5. I'm Rod. See you next Wednesday, 7 p.m. for celebrity gossip. Thank you.
Thank you.